So I briefly mentioned how to navigate an MBean hierarchy. You can actually search for MBeans, and there are two commands that you typically use to locate MBeans, and one is find. And you can find MBeans based on the name of the MBean or a type of MBean. So let's say we want to use find in our WL server example domain that we use in the lab. Well, let's say we wanted to find. And find, by the way, find returns a path, like a directory or file path to the MBean. So if we wanted to know where our MS1 MBean was located, we could run find on MS1 and it would return us the MBean path. Now, you can have a resource of different types with the same name. I don't recommend this because it leads to name collisions when you're possibly name collisions when you're clustered. However, find will return a list or an array of those MBean paths if it finds an MBean with the same name. You can also find based on type. So let's say you wanted to return a list of all the servers in your domain. You can use find and then specify the server MBean type. So once you've got the path or the location to an MBean, you can get an object. You can get the object of that MBean or that MBean object, and you use getPath to return an object. And so the parameter for getPath is the result of find. You wouldn't specify a list or an array for getPath, but just a single entry, so a single path to getPath, and getPath will return you an object. And once you have an MBean object, you can look at its operations, you can execute operations on that MBean, and you can look at its attributes. So let's talk about editing MBeans in an online mode. And this is the most common. So you'll primarily be in an online mode connected to an admin server when you're editing a domain. And so there's a process here that you need to follow in order to make changes to a domain. And we really haven't touched on this in the lab since we are mostly working in development mode. When you're in production mode, you have to follow a very strict process for making changes to a domain. So there's WebLogic has this change control center. And if you're in production mode, you cannot make a change to a domain until you've obtained an exclusive right to edit that domain. And so when you're in production mode, the console will have a lock and edit button. So you would click that lock and edit button and you would be able to edit that domain. And what this does is it gives you exclusive rights to make changes to that domain. And anybody else logged into the admin console would not have exclusive rights to edit that domain. Now, this only works if you are not sharing accounts, administrative accounts. So if everyone's using WebLogic 123, then that lock is specific to that account. So somebody else could stomp on your changes. So don't share accounts. With WLST, whether we are in development mode or production mode, it doesn't matter. WLST enforces this process. So the first thing we do is when we want to make a change to a domain, we have to connect to the admin server that's running. Okay. Once we've connected, then we issue the edit command, and the edit command switches us from the domain runtime MBean hierarchy to the domain config hierarchy. And so this gets us into the right MBean hierarchy to make changes. And then we issue the start edit command. And the start edit command is similar to the lock and edit that you would click in the admin console if you were in production mode. And so that start edit command gives us the exclusive right to make changes to that domain. And then after you issue that command, you are free to make changes to your domain. You can edit, so whatever that might be. You can add servers, edit servers, change parameters on a data source, change passwords. There's a slew of commands. Okay, so whatever they are, you make your changes after you've obtained that exclusive edit log. Once you are done with those changes, you can save them. Well, you have to save them. You type save and then you save your changes. But you don't just save. So after you've saved, you have to activate those changes. So saving them temporarily saves them. Activate pushes all those changes out to all the members of your domain, to all the other managed servers. So once you've activated those changes and all the managed servers have picked up those changes, then you must release the edit lock, and that is the stop edit command. And then once you've issued the stop edit command, you are done.